All right. So let me see if this, yeah, yes, it works well. Let's see if I can put my, yes, you can also see me down here. So that's all good. Okay, so again, let me know in the live chat if you can hear me clearly. Thank you very much. And let's see if I can open this on my mobile phone so I can follow the live chat with you. So, okay. If you're here, let me know in the live chat that you're here, please. Pure Aim, thank you for being here. Shalom. And hold on. Ninja Viking for 20, thank you for being here. Dev, thank you for being here. So, this live stream will be about the danger of worldly empathy. There's a lot said about empathy and how malignant narcissists or evil people lack empathy, which is correct. They do lack empathy. Empathy towards others. It's not that they don't have empathy whatsoever. They do have empathy, but the empathy is only focused on themselves. All right? So, let me go to YouTube. Yes. So, it's not that empathy is not there. It's just that empathy is, how would I say, completely self-contained. And that's why such people can do the worst things to you. And they don't feel any remorse. Because empathy for them is all about themselves. That is quite obvious. Now, empathy in itself is a human quality that's good. Okay, so we're not going to deny that. Empathy is a good human quality. Without it, we can't function properly as human. We must be able to identify each other's feelings and emotions in order to relate properly to one another. That's correct. However, the world has an expectation of you when it comes to empathy that will destroy you. Now, narcissists, reprobates, people, dangerous and evil people, they only have empathy for themselves. And sometimes even that is lacking. All the other commoners have empathy. But the commoners are told by the world that they must have empathy towards society and towards public figures or figures of authority. But nowhere are worldlings told by the world that the world owes them any empathy. Okay. So, do you understand what I've just said there? Because it's a very important point that a lot of folks miss. Society, or you can say the world, always teaches you to have empathy for others, to have empathy towards the group, to watch your mouth, to be respectful, to be polite, to consider other people's feelings. How often have you been told while you were raised by your parents or when you were being socialized in society that society owes you empathy? Just tell me how often that happened, that society told you that they owe you empathy, that you have a right to demand empathy from them. Let me know in the live chat, how often did that happen? I'll wait for your answers. Someone said a big zero. Ninja Vikings said it correct. They want us to support others without receiving support in return. So, has also happened before with me, so it is obvious now. It's not common for society to explain to you that they owe you empathy too. But you are expected to have empathy towards society all the time. No excuses. And that is where the problem lies. If you can't see that there's a problem in this, you need a lot of therapy. You really need help. So let's go through it again. Society, which is this constructed world that commoners hold on to, expects empathy from you. So when the politician lies, he may have been under pressure. But if your parent hit you or beat you, you may have asked for it or it was necessary for your own good. There's always some explanation to explain away the violence the parent used. If people don't invite you to a party, even though not inviting you was out of line, you have nothing to say. It's their property, it's their private lives, they have their reasons. When you're being excluded or you're being mistreated and people don't do something about it, well, the world is just unfair. You just need to live with it. Or when there's racism going on, you'll say you're just too sensitive. It's too much in your head. When society fails or does wrong, there's always a reason or an explanation, and in some cases you're being blamed, even though you're not to blame. And you're expected to understand other people's point of view, to be understanding. You're supposed to be the understanding victim. That's what society expects of you. The other way around, if you one day crash down and you almost caused a car accident in your car, you did not drink or anything, but you almost caused a car accident, no way they're going to forgive you that. They may take away your driver's license, or you may have to pay for a court. They don't care what was going on in your life. You just have to make sure that society is at ease. Everyone gets benefits from you all the time. What if you lose your job? What if you're kicked? If you become homeless suddenly? What if things really go south with you? What if you need mental help because you can't help yourself? Where is the empathy of society the society expects of you all the time? Where is it? Oh, I got it already. It's not coming. So it's a one-way traffic always. Society expects things from you, and you're not allowed to expect anything in return. This turned into a virtue, doing good without expecting things in return. Now look at this. If people are doing good things just to manipulate others, to exploit others, that's different. But if you genuinely do good, and you're responsible towards the group must reciprocate this one way or the other to you. If you do good genuinely, then the group must reciprocate it one way or the other. What does the world say? Do good, expect nothing in return. Okay, if you do good to someone else is ungrateful, that's their issue. But the group must reward your willingness to do good. But the world tells you do good without expecting anything in return. So actually the world's telling you just to get lost. If you are being exploited or victimized, we don't want to hear it. Just make sure we get benefits. When we want benefits, make sure the benefits are there, or else we become a monster to you. But when we do stupid towards you, we don't want to hear anything about it. That is society. That sounds like a malignant narcissist to me. So the world tells you to have empathy. They expect this of you. But it's one-way street from you towards the group. It's never the group towards you. That is what I call worldly empathy. It's a one-way street empathy from you towards the group. And this is rewarded by the world. This is rewarded by the world if you behave like this. People will cheer you on. People will crown you. People will turn you into a celebrity when you operate like this. But the moment you demand the same type of empathy back from society, oh, don't even go there. People will drop you like it's hot. They don't want anything to do with you anymore. Some will even attack you physically because they feel offended. Now suddenly, people are offended because you demand the group to have the same type of empathy towards you as you have for the group. Let's see how much empathy society has. They have prisons. They have death row. Some countries still have death row where they execute people. They have mental silence where they just throw people in and forget about them. And you have a lot of red light districts where a lot of women end up when they can't support themselves. And you have the criminal world that exploits people who don't have any other help available to them. That's how much empathy society has towards you. And you're told that all those defense mechanisms of society are there for the good of the community. Look, that are very dangerous people that you need to remove from the community. I can understand that. You can ban them or you can imprison them for a while. I can understand that. But you're not going to put the threat of imprisonment on the whole population. There's nothing that can justify this. So what you're saying there is that you're not willing to deal with issues, nor you're not interested in finding solutions. You just want relief. When issues come up, you fight the symptoms or you attack people by either putting them in jail or putting them on death row or shaming them or ruining them, and then everyone knows, don't question anymore. Don't ask any questions. That's how society works. So society has zero empathy towards you. When you look at it well, that is what it proves. It doesn't matter which society it is in which country. Every society is constructed that way. There is no empathy towards you. But there is a demand for empathy from you. If you don't give them the empathy they want, you are the narcissist. You are the bad guy. You are the egomaniac, whatever. But the moment you demand the same back, some people even dare to think about that because they know they'll be violated. So, do you understand what I've explained till now? Let me know in the live chat. I have live chat over here with me on my mobile phone so I can follow it with you. Pure aim understand this. Does the rest understand it also? Let me know in the live chat, please. There's a latency of, I believe, 10 or 15 seconds. So I'll wait till I get an answer. Pure aim says, okay, she understands it. Hold on. Let's see if this live chat works properly. Okay. Okay, good. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm not sure if this will work, but let's try it out anyway. I'm going to show a little bit of a video clip, not completely. And I'm going to talk about something. I've spoken about it before, but it's also good for this live stream to talk about it. Okay, I hope YouTube doesn't make any fuss about this, but okay, let's begin. First of all, let me know in the live chat if you can hear the YouTube clip.
I'm Tracy Grimshaw. Welcome to a special edition of A Current Affair. Tonight, in the wake of today...
Did you hear that?
Of A Current Affair. Tonight, in the wake of today...
Did you hear that? Okay, let me know. I'll wait till I get some... Okay, good. So you hear that, that's fine. So let's start over here. This is a It's someone else has loaded this video up. It's a broadcasting about Robert Hughes, this Australian child predator that was captured. And I want to focus a little bit on the broadcast itself. Okay, so let's begin.
Hello, I'm Tracy Grimshaw. Welcome to a special edition of A Current Affair. Tonight, in the wake of today's final guilty verdict against Hey Dad star Robert Hughes, we can...
Okay, so you have the blue and the red duality, Freemasonry. Blue color of enforcement, red color that you demand something from someone. That means that you want something from someone, often sexual energy. So they want you to see this figure here as guilty, and he's dressed in black and white. Another duality. So you have duality all over the place. Okay?
We can now bring you the full story of how a predator was brought to justice.
A predator brought to justice. People love such stuff. But okay, let's continue.
How the bravery of his victims and their supporters...
The bravery of the victims and its supporters. Hold on, let me go back.
Of how a predator was brought to justice. How the bravery of his victims and their supporters, along with our own investigation, ensured that truth would win out.
Ensure that truth will win out. So it's very poetic. Let's continue.
Over lies and cover-up.
Over lies and cover-up. Oh, so there was a cover-up. Okay. Look at him. Hypnotic view towards the camera. Hypnotic stare, I mean. When you see people with this hypnotic stare, beware that something is off.
Robert Hughes is now a convicted sex offender. He did irreparable damage to a number of people's lives.
He was one of Australia's
A number of people's lives, okay.
biggest TV stars. His long-term de facto partner, one of Australia's biggest celebrity agents.
Thank you, Robin Gardner.
But for more than 30 years, Robert Hughes had a secret. He was
30 years. That's 3 decades. That's 1.5 generation. Okay?
a sex predator preying on innocent young girls.
It started when I was little, like really little.
I was asleep and he would walk in and put his hands under the covers.
He had her up on a chair and he had his hands on her chest.
I remember being absolutely repulsed.
4 years ago, fellow cast members, family friends, even his own relatives all came forward to A Current Affair as we uncovered the biggest sex scandal in Australian television history.
You're aware.
Okay. I know I addressed this case before, but for this live stream, I want you to pay attention to the following. Okay? So they present this case, they tell you the facts in the beginning, so you know what's up, so they give you the context, which is something mainstream media seldom does. So they give you the context, but watch how they talk about the victims. Who noticed something about how they talk about the victims? Let me know in the live chat. I want to see if you captured what I've captured. Just tell me, what have you noticed about how they talk about the victims? I'll wait for your answers. Brave victims. Okay, anyone else? Notice anything, how they talk about the victims? Or something about the style, how they address the victims? There are no wrong answers, just give me what's on your mind. I'll wait for another minute. All right. Let's see. Someone says, like they are brave and seems like they're in it together. Someone said just got in on, but maybe like impersonal. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Just one more minute for those who will still haven't given an answer, because I'm going to tell you what's off about how they talk about the victims, but I just want to see how many of you would catch it. So one more minute for you to give answers, then I'll continue. All right. Okay, 30 seconds more. Okay. Let me recap on it. They begin to talk about this sex predator. They begin to show you his face. They show you that they tell you he was for about 3 decades. He was a famous star in Australia and also outside of Australia. He was one of the biggest TV personalities of Australia. Also, they tell you all of that. But then they begin to talk about brave victims. Why do they call them brave survivors? Okay, that's one thing. And look at this. Let me go and play a little bit back so that you can hear it a bit for yourself, so I'm not going to make things up here.
Robert Hughes had a secret. He was a sex predator preying on innocent young girls.
It started when I was little, like really little.
I was asleep and he would walk in and put his hands under the covers.
He had her up on a chair and he had his hands on her chest.
I remember being absolutely repulsed.
4 years ago, fellow cast members,
Fellow cast members,
family
and friends,
even his own relatives all came forward.
Even his own relatives? Oh, hold on a minute.
I remember being absolutely repulsed.
4 years ago, fellow cast members, family, friends, even his own relatives.
Relatives and family and friends. So they're repeating themselves. So family and friends and relatives. Relatives and family are synonyms. Why did you use synonyms? Because they're pointing something out here. So what they're pointing out in the very beginning of this broadcast is that those around him, his relatives, his family, knew what type of monster he was. Oh dear. And many don't capture that. So hold on a minute. Is there also a prosecution going to put in place for those relatives who knew what type of monster he was and didn't do anything about it for 3 full decades? Let's continue.
All came forward to a current affair as we uncovered the...
They came to a current affair. They didn't go to the police. They didn't go to authorities. They went to a TV show. Hold on. If there is this child predator out there who for 3 decades he's been molesting children, causing harm into many people's lives, so you all come together for some reason and you go to a TV show. Hold on. Since when do you report a predator to a TV show? Oh, because if they would go to the police are going to think, okay, but why did you wait for 3 decades to come forth? So they went to a TV show. Okay, that's quite off. Let's continue.
Biggest sex scandal in Australian television history.
You're aware of no wrongdoing at all on this show?
No, I'm not willing to talk about it.
Then he said to me, you consider this a lesson in professionalism.
I know I'm not the only one.
Yeah, this guy doing the pointing the finger symbol refers to... Wait, where is that guy? He pointed the finger showing that he's the one with Apollo. Okay, so let's continue.
It would lead to a 2-year police investigation involving more than 200 witnesses.
200 witnesses.
Resulting in 11 child sex charges relating to 5 victims.
Only 5 victims?
Today,
Okay.
finally, a guilty verdict and justice for his victims.
The reality is that this day probably would never.
His victims? There were 200 witnesses. There were 11 charges, only relating to 5 victims. And it's his victims? Look at the wording, his victims. Why not Australia's victims, of the victims of Australian society? Or victims of the community? You see what society is doing here? When that guy was this television personality, he was contributing to the entertainment industry of Australia worldwide. And he was beloved by the world. And people made money off his name. Everyone was in on it. They don't want to hear anything bad about this guy. Even when rumors were there, even when evidence was there, even when some of the children spoke out, they didn't do anything. Now that he's older and they don't benefit from him anymore, now out of the blue, his close relatives, close and distant relatives, together with some of the people who used to work with him, came together to report him to the media. And from the media went to the police. So it seems that when they could all benefit and profit off of him, they didn't care what harm he caused to other people, as long as they got their profit. Now that he is older, his career is done with, and they can't benefit from it anymore. Now, for some reason, they think it's okay to open their mouths. So all those 30 years when they were benefiting from him, for some reason, though all those children were not important. They were not relevant.
Never have happened had it not been for mainstream media, particularly this program and also Women's Day.
Tonight, the full story about how the police and this program caught a predator.
Let's go, you rolling?
Well, the police and the program did not catch any predator. It were his own supporters that betrayed him just to save their own behinds. Why? Because now that the guy's career was over and all the things were coming out, they didn't want to go down. They wanted to. They didn't want to go down as the enablers of this foul creep. So they wanted to save their own behinds by pretending to be the heroes. So it's not the police nor that program that catch a predator. It was his own that handed him in when they couldn't benefit from him anymore.
Everything's going really well here. Everything's fine.
Robert Hughes has been in show business most of his life. A musician turned actor, he had countless roles in theatre, film and TV.
He never stops talking about Wandon Valley.
Well, during the 1970s, Robert Hughes was what we call a jobbing actor.
Come on, let's move. We're running out of time.
He was out doing bits and pieces, and he was not a household name by any stretch of the imagination.
I have to get an interview with ABBA.
But stardom was just around the corner. ABBA the movie was a feature film about the mania surrounding the supergroup in Australia.
Oh, so he suddenly got this boom in his career,
Yeah.
okay?
And
like
there playing the lead role, Robert Hughes.
Excuse me, I'd just like to, can I have an interview?
But for all the fame the film brought, it was an unlikely sitcom nearly a decade later that would make him a household name. 7.
One thing that's a bit off here. So this guy is a sex predator that afflicted children, which is quite disturbing. Okay? They mentioned brave victims in the beginning. Now, they are kind of glorifying this man's career as his great Australian actor. Hold on a minute. Hold on. There's something wrong here. So this guy was a creep, preying on Australian children all along. And he's been caught after his own enablers handed him in. And now you spend minutes of the documentary praising his career. I'm sorry, but we shouldn't be interested in his career. because his career was just a cover-up for the filth he was doing to all of you. So even when this creep goes down, the world still has more honor for him than for the people that were hurt. So this is the thing about the world. They love their monsters. Even if they have to disown one of their monsters, they do it in an honorable way. The only reason they turned on this monster that they brought forth was because of embarrassment if they didn't. Too much was coming out, so they want to save their face towards the public, so they turned on this own monster that they've put up. So they didn't disown the honorability of this monster. That is what I want you to notice here, believers. Let's continue.
It was an instant smash hit. Entertainment reporter Peter Ford.
It wasn't me.
Well, Hey Dad was the biggest TV show around at that time. I mean, it also was a breakthrough show. We haven't had a
I thought it's about the victims or the survivors.
Great track record of doing sitcoms in Australia. And whilst there probably was nothing especially sophisticated about the Hey Dad format or the scripts, it was still enormously successful.
Forget it.
The cast included Simone Buchanan, Christopher Truswell, Julie McGregor, Ben Oxenbould.
Okay. Who else noticed something off here? Just let me know in the live chat. Just say what's on your mind. If there are no wrong answers. Again, do not ask questions in a live chat that are not related to the topic, please. I just gave someone a timeout. So who else noticed anything off here? I'll just give 30 seconds more till I'll get an answer. If not, I'll just say it. Someone says, I think it's obvious, always doing shows with kids. Okay, fair enough. It's not what I was aiming for, but that's a good point also. Anyone else? 30 more seconds, then I'll continue. Okay, 20 seconds still. Okay. What just happened here is that they're now, okay, let me show you.
About the Hey Dad format or the scripts, it was still enormously successful.
Forget it.
It was enormously successful, okay.
Cast included Simone Buchanan, Christopher Truswell, Julie McGregor, Ben Oxenbould, and playing the role of little Jenny, Sarah Monahan.
1, 2.
So, what's going on is that they are actually, how do I say it? They are desensitizing the public. Because in the beginning of the documentary, they just told you that some of his former cast members also turned on him. And then they show you some of the famous people that he worked with. So the program is for you to think of those former colleagues as heroes. But why didn't any of those former colleagues speak out when all that was happening? And why aren't they addressing the responsibility of his former cast members? Okay, let's continue.
2, 3.
No, there's just one of me, Dad.
Oh, sorry.
What viewers didn't know was that behind the scenes, Hey Dad's biggest star, Robert Hughes, was molesting Sarah, a truth that wouldn't be revealed for more than 20 years.
It started off fairly innocent, the whole, sit on my lap, tickle, stuff like that.
sit in my lap, tickle and all of that. It should have been a red flag already. Which grown man wants a child, a girl that's not his own daughter, to sit on his lap and to tickle the child?
And then it got worse.
It was March 2010 when Sarah first told her story to Woman's Day, and then a current affair, detailing disturbing allegations of inappropriate behaviour by a fellow cast member.
He would like touch my boobs, and then because I was always on his lap, you know, he'd always like grab my ass or, you know, put his hand like right here, you know.
Although Monaghan didn't name Hughes at the time, she described how he would expose himself to her backstage.
Even expose himself, showing body parts out backstage. What the heck?
I remember very specifically the one episode where I was behind the set and it was between the two shows, and I'm there like, you know, little kid drawing, and it was like full on down to the pants.
Sarah told us it happened from when she was 6 years old until she turned 13.
6 years old to 13. That's 7 years. That's a very long time that this was going on.
They say that people don't know, but people knew.
Oh. What did she say here? I'm sorry, Saints, I need to go back because this is very interesting. Listen to what she said here.
6 years old until she turned 13.
They say that people don't know, but people knew. And it was always a keep it hushed because this is the most successful TV show on television and people don't want to know that.
Ooh. Keep it hush. Shut your mouth. Don't talk about it. It's the most successful TV show in Australia right now. You are bothering us. Stop bothering us with the fact that this guy is molesting you because you are bothering other people. Show some empathy. Consider the feelings of other people for a moment. Stop being so selfish, little girl. That is what I'm talking about in this live stream. Society expects empathy from you towards them. But oh dear if you expect empathy in return. Pure aim, that's exactly what was happening. They were all in on it. Okay, so let's continue.
Were you aware of anything inappropriate going on?
I had heard something, but I
have heard something, what? Let's look at that again, believers. First of all, look at the expression in her face. There's a bit of a witchy expression, but okay. Not going too deep into that now. Let's listen.
Aware of anything inappropriate going on?
This is the reporter asking the serious question. You can see that he's concerned. And look at this.
I had heard something, but I had no idea the extent of the monstering.
In the day...
Hold on, believers. Oh, saints. I always should call you guys saints. Okay? Remind me of that, to call you all saints. Saints. Does this look like a natural, healthy response of a woman concerning a child being molested for years? Not only one child, but multiple children. Does this seem like a genuine response to you? Let me know in the live chat. And look at this. I froze the screen and she's kind of laughing over here. A very small laugh. There's no laughing matter here. Where's the emotion in the eyes? Look. If I would hear now that one of my school teachers that I used to know when I went to primary school was molesting children, even though it may have happened years ago, you would see some annoyance on my face. You would see some disgust. I would raise my voice, or you would see some type of emotion in me to say, no. Or I would have almost saying, what? Did Mr. Momet do that? You would see some type of anger or shock in someone's face. I won't say, yeah, okay, I wasn't really sure about it, yeah, but I didn't know the extent to which, So what you're saying, she didn't say, no, I didn't know about it. Absolutely not. She didn't say yes. If she would say yes, we will say, okay, but if you knew it, why didn't you do something about it? So she's kind of diffusing the tension away from her. Say, I didn't know the extent of it was. So you didn't know the extent. That means that she did knew something. Why didn't you just say, yes, I knew about it? Man. Let's continue.
He's following that explosive first interview with Sarah. We tracked down other Hey Dad cast members.
And I feel sorry for her that there was no one that she could feel she could turn to.
Oh, I feel so sorry for her. There was no one she could feel she could turn to. She was on the set with you. She was a little girl. You were in your teens. Don't tell me you don't have natural senses to sense when a child feels uncomfortable. But at the time, you were at the beginning of your career and you were so focused on your career and you making it. And this little girl complaining was not on your agenda. Oh, man. People see through this. If they don't, then they need help.
Julie McGregor and Christopher Trustwell didn't remember seeing anything inappropriate on the set.
Because she's so small and cute and everything, as a kid, you know, everybody was always pulling her onto their lap.
Yeah.
Whoa! Whoa. Hold on. Hold on a minute. Let's go back, believers. I'm not sure if I heard this correctly. Let's hear it again.
Christopher Trustwell didn't remember seeing anything inappropriate on the set.
Because she's so small.
He didn't remember anything inappropriate on the set. Oh, okay, let's continue.
And cute and everything, as a kid, you know, everybody was always pulling her onto their lap.
Yeah.
So
everyone was pulling her onto their lap. What? Is this a is this a natural behavior to put a random child of someone else on your lap? So what's actually this actor here saying is that, hey, many people pulled her on her lap. So yeah, it was a common thing that people pulled her on her lap. And it didn't disturb you that a lot of people just put this little cute girl on their lap. What? Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's just that it was not something you wouldn't be looking for it.
It was something you would be looking for. Yes, you should think it's strange that a little girl is being pulled on everyone's lap. You didn't notice anything bad on stage. So was it on stage or backstage that you saw this happening, sir?
To see if any sort of impropriety was going on at all.
But there was. As part of our investigation, A Current Affair obtained this chilling photograph taken by a crew member. It shows Sarah sitting on Robert Hughes' lap, his hands hidden under a script.
I'm sure so many people agree that the look on his face and the look on your...
Look at the look on the girl's face. That's not a very happy face there. Oh man, let's continue.
Your face just said so much.
Yeah, he just looks so cocky, like, look at what I can do in a room full of people, and I'm just sitting there going, really, again?
I've always wondered whether this would ever happen, you know. This has been something we've kept to ourselves for 20 years.
This is something we kept to ourselves for 20 years. Why? Why did you keep it to yourself for 20 years?
Simone Buchanan, who played Sarah's on-screen older sister, would soon speak out, revealing that Sarah had confided in her at the time when the abuse was happening.
She came to me and she said, you know, Robert's behaving funny. And I said, what do you mean? She said, he's started to touch me, you know, inappropriately. And I said, oh, okay. And I had an idea about the man at the stage, so there was no reason for me not to believe her.
Okay, let's continue.
Gary. Yeah. G'day, Brady Halls from Current Affair. How are you?
Gary Riley was the creator and executive producer of Hey Dad. Reporter Brady Halls went looking for answers about what he and Channel 7 management knew.
Were you aware of those allegations, though?
Well, I'm not aware of any allegations.
None?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're aware of no...
Of course you don't know what they're talking about, because you're in on it, creep.
No wrongdoing at all on this show?
And I'm not willing to talk about it at the moment. Thank
Does that mean you were aware or you weren't aware?
The next day, he agreed to speak with Tracy Grimshaw.
How much did you know at the time?
Nothing.
How much did you know at the time? Nothing. So you mean to tell me the former cast members kept it silent? They even went to the media about it. They went to the police. And you, the one directing the whole set, knew nothing about it. Get out of here.
None of us knew anything.
None of us. Okay.
The first thing I understood about Sarah was the magazine article and your program.
During this extraordinary interview, Riley maintained that he didn't know about Sarah's allegations about his lead star. Then he said this.
And the reality was that I've got to choose my words carefully.
Oh, I got to choose my words carefully. Why do you say something like that on national TV? I need to choose my words carefully. Because you know that if you say anything that may reveal information, you're doomed. Oh, he just exposed himself.
Approached the person on several occasions, and we had stand-up rows about it. Stand-up blues. To the extent that he resigned.
Gary Riley's denials infuriated cast member Ben Ox.
So now he claims they did. First he said we didn't know. Then he says that there were rows about it, people were arguing about it. So what is it? Didn't you know anything? Or what did you know and there were conflicts about it? What is it? He just contradicted himself on live TV.
Is the guile to come on national television and say that he knew nothing about it. I don't believe it. I approached him and expressed my concerns, told him what I knew, and I was essentially not just shot down in flames, but intimidated into not saying anything. And then he said to me, "You consider this a lesson in professionalism."
So this other guy here knew about it and he informed the director about it, and the director threatened him not to say anything. Wow.
Here at A Current Affair, our phones started ringing. Former TV executives, people who were once family friends of Robert Hughes, even some of his own family. They all wanted to tell us the same story. Robert Hughes was a sexual predator.
He was a family friend, and so was around our house quite a lot.
These two brave sisters came forward to tell their story about what Hughes did to them. At the time, one was 10, the other just 6.
I was asleep and he would walk in and put his hands under the covers.
I woke up myself one time and his hands were under the doona.
Other victims came forward and went directly to police as a result of our investigation. The question everyone...
This is what you need to think about, Saints. So this man was such a high-profile predator that he was protected. So a lot of folks eventually were in on it, straight up, but were also genuine people who were concerned, but they were threatened not to open their mouths. Okay, so he had protection of Australian society. There's no other way this guy could have continued for all those decades without having some type of high-profile defense at his disposal.
One was then asking, where was Robert Hughes?
Singapore. Wow. Which has its occult significance for the Lee dynasty, but okay, let's continue.
Singapore is where Robert Hughes moved with his long-term de facto Robin Gardner. Her talent agency, RGM Management, had taken off and in 2010 was expanding into Asia.
Robin Gardner would certainly be considered one of, if not the top manager for actors in Australia.
By now...
So he moved to Singapore eventually, okay. And his partner for the long term was expanding her business in Asia.
Okay. She was representing a galaxy of Australian stars. Hugh Sheridan, Vince Colosimo, Chris Lilly and Lisa McCune. But her biggest name was Oscar winner Kate Blanchett.
My agent in Australia, Robin Gardner, I love you so very much.
Some people were surprised that Kate mentioned Robin Gardner by name at the Oscars, given all that was going on.
Singapore is a city of 5 million people. Let's go, you rolling? Yep. Let's go.
It's very brave, you went all the way to Singapore, okay, but... Okay.
We went there wanting to find just one.
Hello, Hello, I'm Tracy Grimshaw. Welcome to A Current Affair. Tonight, an explosive edition of the program as we name the man who's allegedly...
Robert Hughes. Robert Hughes. Hello, Robert. Ben McCormack from A Current Affair. There's a lot of serious allegations being made about you back in Australia at the moment. Do you have anything to say?
I'm absolutely, totally shocked at the allegations, and I absolutely deny everything.
A Current Affair was the first media organisation to...
Why is the guy so calm? Because this happens with people that turn reprobate. They become so calm at their evil doing that... Look, if someone... Okay, let's go back. Let me just explain what I mean. Okay, let's listen and check again.
Robert Hughes. Hello, Robert. Ben McCormack from A Current Affair. There's a lot of serious allegations being made about you back in Australia at the moment. Do you have anything to say?
Hold on. So the reporter didn't even tell him what the allegations were. If you're in your car, okay, in another country, you live there, and some reporter randomly comes to your car and you lower it down, and the reporter introduces himself. We're from this television station. There are many allegations going about you now in Australia. My question would be, which allegation are you talking about? If there are many allegations going on, which of the many are you talking about? He didn't even ask which allegations. So he already knew that things were coming out. And look at this.
I'm absolutely, totally shocked at the allegations, and I absolutely deny everything.
A Current Affair was the first media organisation to name Robert Hughes as a sex predator, and we were the only ones to secure this interview.
Everything now is in the hands of defamation lawyers.
The defamation lawsuits he threatened never came, but what did was a police investigation.
The man is Robert Hughes, the lead character.
On the same night we named Robert Hughes, the New South Wales Sex Crime Squad set up Strike Force Ruskin.
It was a lot of work for the police. It was a long investigation. It spanned more than 2 years.
Now the thing is, why did the investigation take 2 years? Let's pause for a moment, believers. He had so many people coming out. Relatives, friends, fellow employees, fellow associates. Yet the victims themselves, or better said, the survivors speaking out. Yet all of this coming out. It shouldn't have taken 2 years to conduct an investigation. It should have taken like 3 months. Because all the evidence was already there. Why did it take 2 years? That's also something that's quite odd about this matter.
Had to travel overseas to speak with victims, and also they've had to convince some people to be prepared to come to court.
They had to convince some people to be prepared to come to court. Now, I've spoken about pagan courthouses before, and this is why I do not support pagan courthouses. Look, if you've been violated, or you know someone's been violated, and you know those courthouses are there for justice, you should feel comfortable going to a courthouse to talk about this and this guy was molesting children. This is about children. It's not about grown women that regret having sex with someone and then claim they were raped. These were little children. You should feel comfortable going to a pagan courthouse saying, hey, this courthouse is here for justice, this man did harm to the community, needs to be dealt with. Why did the police have to convince people to come and testify in the courthouse? It is because those people knew that this man has been doing this for decades and he was protected. And those people were afraid for their lives. That if they would open their mouth, something bad may happen to them. That's why police had to make so much effort to get people to talk. So that shows that there was resistance and oppositions behind the scenes against this investigation. Probably from within the Australian police itself.
Hundreds of witnesses interviewed, Naomi Watts and Delta Goodrum, both who appeared on Hey Dad as youngsters. Neither made claims against Hughes, but by June 2012, police and the DPP were ready. An arrest warrant was issued, and in August, they made their move.
We begin with the major development in the Hey Dad scandal and the arrest of its former star.
Hughes had moved from Singapore to London. That's where he was arrested. Strikeforce Ruskin detectives escorted him back to Australia to await his trial. It would take 6 weeks, every day Robert Hughes coming to court to face his accusers. Adult women who he knew as young girls. His horrific past was finally catching up with him.
They turned it into a whole media circus.
The prosecution presented 5 victims. The first was 14 years old when on 2 separate occasions she claimed that Hughes sexually assaulted her when she was asleep in her bedroom. The second victim was between 6 and 8 when she claimed she was indecently assaulted by Hughes on 4 separate occasions during sleepovers at his house.
Why are there sleepovers of children at an adult man's house? Come on now!
Victim 3, well, she was just 9 when she said she was indecently assaulted by Hughes twice on a trip to the beach and another when he was putting drops in her ear. Victim 4 was 15 and claimed Hughes indecently assaulted her once when she went to him for acting advice. And victim 5, well, that was Sarah Monahan, who claimed Hughes exposed himself to her on the set of Hey Dad when she was just a little girl.
In my opinion, the strength of the Robert Hughes case came in the fact that all of these women had no connection to each other, didn't cross paths as children, certainly have not crossed paths as adults, who all have come forward with accusations of indecent assault.
Okay. So what this woman is saying is that it's because all the victims never knew one another and they all came forward with the same story. That's why they couldn't deny the evidence anymore. If they all knew one another, people would say, they're just making it up to get attention. But because these were women who never knew one another and they all went separate ways as adults and they all had the same story of what happened to them, that is what triggered the public to realize this is something real.
Or of indecency by Robert Hughes.
During the trial, Robert Hughes took the stand in his own defence and, as he's always done, denied any wrongdoing.
Look at this. So in Australia, for a while now, there has been allegations about this guy. Evidence was coming out. And this guy, just look at this. He's walking down the streets at peace. Okay, let's.
During the trial,
look at him. He's confident with his sunglasses, in a suit and tie, walking down the streets. Where's the crowd chanting for him to be lynched? Where's the crowd going off at him for disappointment? Where is the angry mob? Where's the angry crowd? I don't see any.
Robert Hughes took the stand in his own defence and, as he's always done, denied any wrongdoing. Court reporter Amy Dale covered the trial for Sydney's Daily Telegraph newspaper.
At times, Robert Hughes did become very agitated in the stand. There were times that he got very tense and appeared to be very annoyed by what was taking place.
The only women to stand by him in court were his long-term partner, Robin Gardner, and his daughter Jessica.
Now, Robin Gardner hadn't been at court really at all for the entire trial, but she came to give evidence, and obviously she was very measured and very controlled in her answers to say that her husband had no case to answer and had done nothing wrong. And that was, they were claims that were mirrored almost in some cases word for word by Jessica Hughes.
In the end,
I mean, look at this, Saints. Where is the crowd?
A jury of 6 men and 6 women found Robert Hughes guilty of 10 of the 11 charges, including Sarah Monahan's. Throughout the trial, he'd shown little emotion, but right at the end, when the verdicts were being read out, he started to cry and he yelled out to the jury, "I am innocent." He's shown no remorse and taken no responsibility for his horrendous crimes. but tonight he's behind bars, awaiting sentencing.
This day probably would never have happened had it not been for mainstream media, particularly this program and also Woman's Day, because they aired these allegations and you were taking on a sacred cow. You were taking on things that were very disturbing to hear, but it has resulted in this verdict today, and that's got to be a good thing.
Now, okay. So it was a media program that had to push the pagan courthouse and the police to do their job. How is that a good thing? How is it a good thing that people allow this to continue for decades and it's only 5 of the victims that have been taken into account? Look, saints, do you see now how disturbing this world is? Let me click this away because I have no need to talk about that anymore. So someone asked, do you think there's no crowd because he has a paranormal cover? That may play a role, but even then, you should expect some type of action from the public around. So, in any case, that example from Australia, it has shown one thing. The empathy towards society enabled the victimization of all those other people. The only thing society did was lock up this man after decades. But society did not went after all its enablers. And that's the disturbing part here. And look, it doesn't matter whether you pick a case from Australia or a case from New Zealand or from Zimbabwe or Argentina or Norway or the Netherlands or Japan or Singapore. You can pick any disturbing case from anywhere. You will always find that there is resistance and violence against the victims speaking out. So, having empathy in the world means having empathy for the crowd. Make sure that the crowd is not bothered by you. Now, it's practical to have empathy for others in the sense that you behave yourself, that you don't cause any harm to neither yourself nor other safety. Okay? So you don't talk too loud in the train, you don't run in the supermarket, you obey traffic signs. So all those things are proper. You say you greet people when you come in, you consider other people's feelings. All those expectations are good. But the moments you expect someone to make sure that others are at ease with them, unconditionally, you go too far. And that is exactly what society is expecting from its members. And there is nothing good about that. So, we as saints, we have empathy both towards others and towards ourselves, which is healthy. We do not have exclusive empathy for society, because that's what the world is teaching you, to have exclusive empathy for society. And society has to decide whether or not they give you empathy. And we as believers, we need to unlearn worldly empathy. We should just have natural empathy as God designed us to have. No worldly constraints on our empathy. Even when they had to lock up this man, they showed him in an honorable way. I'm telling you, saints, the world loves its monsters. The world will only turn on its monsters when it can't benefit from its monsters anymore. So, Now that we understand this, do you understand now why I always tell you to look at the bigger picture and to be renewed in your mind? Let me know in the live chat. I'll wait for your answer. Good. So you know what? I'm not going to show you another case where a sexism thing happens. It's obvious now. This is how they do it. This is what they do. So we have empathy, okay? But we have empathy towards others because that's how we're designed to be. We should have empathy. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. Just because you have understanding for what goes on doesn't mean you agree with it. Okay, so you can have empathy without actually having sympathy for what's being done. And listen to what I'm saying. When society points out a predator or they point out an evildoer, even if the evildoer is indeed an evildoer, don't just look at the evildoer. Look at how this evildoer was tolerated or even praised for a while. And ask yourself always the question, why now? If a monster is being captured by the world, ask yourself, why now? Why is it that it's right now that they take action against this individual? Now, some of you may have heard about the Yorkshire Ripper. Okay, so I'm going to just look it up for you. I'm not going to show another video about the Yorkshire Ripper. Okay. This is the Yorkshire Ripper right over here. Let me go and show you some images. Yes. Let me... Not... You know what? Let's do it like this. This is the Yorkshire Ripper right over here. And this was him. Another picture, some of his victims right over here. Let me check this out. Okay. I want you to look at this image over here of the victims of... Okay, let me remove this video thing over here. Okay. I remove myself from self. You can't see me now. Look at this full image over here. These are the victims of the Yorkshire Ripper. For years, this man over here was able to just do his dirty thing. Okay? He looks like an English gentleman. Like an English dandy. Okay. So, and when you look at this guy, he was a truck driver, a lorry driver as they call it in Britain. And at the very beginning of the police investigation, they knew him as a suspect. They knew him as a suspect, and he even had the nickname Jack the Ripper at some pub. Why didn't they capture the guy immediately? It took them so long to capture him. Why? Because they were in on it. Okay? And back then, Britain was going through a financial crisis. Britain was in decline economically. So to to get attention away from Britain's economic decline, they preferred to let this joker over here, or was it this creep over here, to just have his way. But when it became too obvious that they were in on it, then they captured him. That's why in the early 1980s they captured him, because it became too obvious that the police was kind of in on it. This is how a serial killer, serial rapist looks like. It's nothing that you see in horror movies. And this is how the world is. A clean appearance with rotten violence on the inside. So always when the world turns on one of its monsters, ask yourself, why now? There's always a political reason why they're doing it right then. So this guy passed away due to COVID complications. Now, I don't celebrate the death of any human being, but okay. He brought a lot of harm on himself and to the community. Many of these women would have been alive till this day if society actually cared about its own people. And many of these women are white. So white supremacy doesn't even care about their own. First of all, they used to say that many of these women were prostitutes, which later they rectified is not true. But ask yourself, Britain governed the world. The British Empire governed the world. How come the British Empire governed the world, and when their empire was going away, you had men, so much poverty that a lot of women had to turn to prostitution to survive. So British society didn't even look after their own women. British society didn't even look after their own daughters. So when one of their sons, this guy, turned loose, they didn't want to look at it. Where was empathy for all those women? Where was it? It was not there. Okay? So, now you know why I always tell you. Why I always tell you all to pay attention to your inner radar. This is same in old age. Always pay attention to your inner radar, saints. Because there's one thing you cannot, there's one thing that never lies, that's energy. Energy never lies. At all. Okay. So, the same thing with Jeffrey Epstein and all those other figures. Well, I don't want to mention R. Kelly directly, because R. Kelly, I think that there is some setup going on, but in any way, R. Kelly was also a disturbing fella, to be frank. Just because he's black doesn't mean I'm going to give him a pass. R. Kelly is also disturbing. First of all, you're a celebrity called the king of R&B. If you are praised as an entertainment king in this world, then you're in trouble. That means you've taken a Baphomet oath and all of that stuff. So, look. Society has no empathy towards you. It doesn't. If it did, they would have reformed themselves by now. So, saints, have empathy for everyone, including the monsters of our species. Have empathy. Okay? Empathy does not mean you agree with them, nor that you embrace them. Have empathy because it's human, and that's what keeps us healthy. Do not fall for the one-sided empathy trap of the world, because it will not benefit you at all. It will only set you up. Well, that's all for now. I'm not going to make this video that longer. Keep on, or this live stream that longer. Keep on agreeing with Christ.